evening, guys. It's Saturday night. It is Pontificating with Pete on Revolutionary Change. Hope you're all doing well. You know the routine. We got to make sure that we smash that like button so we can get this bad boy out to as many people as possible, as quickly as possible, because we have to beat the algorithm. That's what they do to us here on good old YouTube. Friend of the show, Rothbone, had his operation shut down the other day. They accused him of doing something he didn't actually do. And this is just par for the course. And the more we talk about the things that matter, the more we're going to have to get creative in making sure that people know about it. But again, the key to the live stream is making sure that you hit that like button, that you share the stream, that you comment. More comments in the chat make a huge difference. So I hope you're all doing well. Happy Easter weekend to those that are celebrating, or to those that simply appreciate the golden rule of do unto others as you would have done to you. This is truly the weekend for the purpose of that statement. The theory that you should just turn the other cheek even when you're being massacred, that doesn't work for me. I would think that those that are doing the damage are the ones that need to be called out for it. And so here we are in the midst of a devastating situation that our country does not want to be a part of. It is, on the one hand, nice to see that the American people are waking up to the realities of their own country. Not all of them, but, certainly a lot of them. And that's a huge part of it. And so, hey, listen, if the Israelis feel that they need to put ads on our channel, that must mean we're doing something right. People feel somewhat intimidated by our channel. Okay, well, heck, whatever works, whatever's going to get more people to tune into our channel, because what our modus operandi here is to just tell the truth and search for justice, period. There is no motive other than that. And as you know, in my personal / private life, I've had to endure that problem recently. A lot of us have had to deal with that. And one thing I want to mention before we get to what's just happened with the U.S. pilot being captured in Iran, there's something to be said about, as I was mentioning on the last live stream, the karmic alignment of the universe and what that really means. Sometimes in life, things don't happen right away. And it isn't a question of retribution. It's a question of, again, what was Christ's golden rule? Do unto others as you would have done to you. And this conversation is going to come full circle at the end of the evening when we address the latest rendition of Christian Zionism gone wrong. But then again, it's all wrong altogether. If you've chosen to be involved in the world of politics, which is not an easy world to be involved in, there are many reasons why people choose to be involved in it. I've chosen to be involved in it because I simply can't turn away from the injustices that go on every day, whether at home or abroad. And now that we come to this very important weekend for billions of people around the world, billions with a B, I want to remind people that when certain tragedies happen, and they happen every day, there is not enough people that truly look underneath the hood of the car and ask themselves, why do these things happen? I say this because there was a tragic slaying that happened in South Florida this past week of an elected official. I'm not going to get into details on that because it's not important. I met the lady once. I met her, ironically, with her husband at an event. No, this goes more to the people that were basically fluffing her for several years. It's sort of the same thing when we observe how people fluff the Democratic establishment, or they fluff Trump in the GOP, etc. There was a post that was put out by one person in particular who was part of this group that, let's just say, was very mean. That's the nicest way I can say it. Very mean to Jen when she ran for Congress. And there were many reasons why they chose to go down that path. But the most obvious is that when you get in the way of the established order led by Debbie Wasserman Schultz, there's going to be people that are going to come out with daggers in more ways than one to come and get you. And so this cadre of mean girls, we'll call them, had and they're, we'll say, fairly cucked men that joined them along with it. These are people that had theories of grandeur, ambitions of Capitol Hill, etc. And what ultimately ended up happening was they tried every which way, including one of the people in question. Again, I'm not going to give away who it was, but let's just say that one of the people in question could not get elected to office, tried multiple times to do it, tried to take appointed positions. That didn't work out very much. And what ultimately came to pass is that they were able to get, in terms of people that are truly in their circle, that they boost, they got two people. One of them is on the school board, and then the other one was the vice mayor. In the case of the vice mayor, this was somebody that they really hitched their wagon to very hard. Hitched the wagon so hard that one of the first things that was disclosed after her slaying was that she was planning on challenging Sheila Sherfless McCormick for her congressional seat. And I would be the first to admit that she probably would be a pretty formidable opponent. Sheila's damaged goods. I mean, this lady was an elected vice mayor in a, middle class, even slightly upper middle class community in West Broward. So I think she would have been formidable. It doesn't mean she would have won. Despite all the scandal, the incumbent still has the advantage. Point is, one of the people that wrote a long message eulogizing this fallen vice mayor couldn't help but make it painfully clear that it was very little to do with her as a person and more to do with her as an object that they were putting on a pedestal, kind of like a golden calf. I don't want to get too biblical, even though it's Easter weekend, but I want to be very clear that the way that this message was conveyed was the message of somebody who had theories of grandeur. Not that they could accomplish it on their own, but that they were going to live vicariously through somebody else who they believed was going to get there. And ultimately, if she chose to run, which it appears was the case, that they were finally going to get their brass ring. Get to work on Capitol Hill, get to work for a congresswoman, and the theories of grandeur would come to fruition. And I would never, ever in any way condone what happened, but I will say this. If you spent countless years stepping on as many people as you could, chastising, embarrassing, harming people, so often as you did, the karmic alignment of the universe acts in very mysterious ways. I won't show the message, but I will simply say that it was of no surprise the way that the message was written. I could see through it. Many others may not, but I could see through it. It's pretty clear what she was saying. All those years that you spent trying to make it through somebody else as a collective group of just mean people. It is a tragedy of tragedies what happened to this girl. And one of her colleagues that sits on the city council wrote he, who I've known for many years, wrote an exceptionally heartfelt piece about her because they've been working together for a long time. But to those people that are in that group, you couldn't make it more obvious that you only saw her as a political football. That's what she was to you. And now you don't have it anymore. The golden rule of Jesus Christ is do unto others as you would have done to you. You may not realize when something may come back and get you years down the road. But all of that anger and pain that you caused other people, you couldn't wait for that body to be cold, for you to make it clear, crystal clear, as to how you saw her. And I don't have to call out every statement that was made, but there's one in particular that just stood out. It clarified and crystallized everything. There are people in politics, many people, who will pretend that they care, truly will pretend that they care. And when push comes to shove, you will find out who your real friends are and who your enemies are. And if you're making a positive impact in politics, if you have more friends than enemies, you're doing it wrong. In fact, if you have friends in politics, it shouldn't be too many. And if you have enemies, the more you have, the more you're probably doing the right thing. When I think about what transpired in the last live stream, when somebody decided to point out in the chat that they were betting on oil and making money, that's pretty messed up because you know how that money is being made. It's being made through blood libel. We're killing our own citizens for Israel and the State Department, the billionaire Zionist class. And while most people know that one of our own was just captured in Tehran, how many of you knew about this? Polymarket apologizes for allowing wagers on fate of U.S. pilots downed in Iran. This is the Running Man. This is the Hunger Games. This is all of it. All of it. You want to gamble on whether or not that pilot lives or dies? Now you can bet on it. You see, it wasn't a big deal when Polymarket was allowed to bet or allow people to bet on whether or not we started bombing the hell out of Tehran and killing thousands upon thousands of people. You see, that's okay because they're lesser than. They're less human. Dehumanization. But now it's taking it too far when it's one of our own. At least that's what they want you to believe. How would they have thought otherwise? The only reason why Polymarket is issuing this statement is because, I'm not giving Seth Moulton any credit. He's another Johnny-come-lately. It's because the people are now aware of this and they're sick of it. Well, how could you not be? We're killing our own people. And we're trying to profit off of it. So when somebody says, I'm betting on oil futures, just know what you're betting on. Colin, please. Prediction market platform, Polymarket, issued an apology for allowing users to place bets on the fate of American pilots abroad, a U.S. fighter jet downed over Iran. A two-seater F-15E Strike Eagle was shot down on Friday, according to a U.S. official. One crew member was rescued, but the other remains missing. In a since-deleted market, users were able to wager on when the pilots might be rescued with the majority predicting a Saturday rescue. U.S. confirms pilot rescued by Representative Seth Moulton, a U.S. Marine veteran who served in Iraq, slammed the market in a post on X, noting that bets were being placed as a dangerous search and rescue operation was ongoing in Iran. This could be your neighbor, a friend, a family member, the Democrat from Massachusetts wrote. And people are betting on whether or not they'll be saved. It's disgusting. Yes, it is. Keep going. You know, a lot of times people ask themselves, is life really imitating art? And the fact is, yes, it is. Life imitates art all the time. And now when you see what happened in the Hunger Games, when you see what happened in, again, I mentioned the Running Man, people do not have a moral compass when it comes to making money. I'm not saying everybody does it, but there's a lot of people that do. Remember, we live in a country with a for-profit health system that people decide every year whether or not somebody is going to die as a result of their ability to make their shareholders the profit margins that they guaranteed. In a reply to Moulton's X post, Polymarket apologized and said it took the market down. We took this market down immediately as it does not meet our integrity standards. Is that so? It doesn't meet your integrity standards? Why did you put it up in the first place? You don't have standards. You just worry that maybe you might cross the line and you draw attention where it shouldn't be. Was Seth Moulton this outraged when they were placing bets on whether or not we were going to attack Iran? Probably not. But this is a bridge too far, because now you're messing with the Marines and a fellow Marine is going to say something about it. So you see how this works. It's when it ultimately affects you directly, or at least you perceive it to being affecting you directly, that now you have something to say. It should not have been posted, and we are investigating how this slipped through our internal safeguards. Yeah, you can wipe your own asses with that message. Moulton replied to Polymarket's apology, saying the company's integrity standards are severely lacking and pointing to other war-related bets still active on the platform. Taking down this particular bet after I called it out can only be the first step. There are still 219 war bets active on your platform. Remove these immediately. Again, this is just one congressman. I would imagine that there are probably some others that may have had an opinion or two to say about what's going on, but here's what we know for sure. There isn't enough out there that are actually saying anything. So there you go. Polymarket takes bets on the use of nuclear weapons. And you can imagine how much money is placed on that. Prediction market platforms where users can place bets on everything from wars and elections to pop culture and sporting events have recently come under congressional scrutiny as their popularity has soared. Last month, lawmakers introduced a Senate bill that would ban prediction markets from accepting or listing transactions related to sporting events and casino-style games. What, you mean people are finally catching on that our professional sports are rigged in the United States, that they're not above that they're not on the level, they're not above board? Not at all. Why would anybody believe that? It's beyond detrimental. In recent weeks, Senator Chris Murphy, of Democrat senator, he's done listen, credit where it's due. He's had a couple of good moments, has also pledged to introduce legislation to ban bets tied to government actions, citing wagers made on the ongoing war. To think that we would even need to introduce legislation shows you just how far we've fallen. And not only have we fallen pretty far, but the other thing you have to think about is, will bills like that even make it to the floor for a vote? Because then you're going to find out, as we've pointed out time and again, when it comes to the very worst of Wasserman Schultz in South Florida that we've had to deal with and why we chose to try to make an effort to unseat her. This is a person who is a war profiteer and has been a war profiteer for a very long time. And now if that comes out of the shadows, who knows how far that's going to go? Guys, where are we on the likes so far? We just hit 600 live viewers. Let's keep it going. Please, any update that can be provided is tremendously appreciated. Colin, can I please have the story about, I believe it's Lebanon. So why is this such a big deal? Israel's message to a broad swath of Lebanon: Shiites must go. Israel has issued sweeping evacuation warnings and pressed some Christian and Druze leaders, not Jewish leaders, even though it looks like it, to expel Shiite Muslims from southern towns, the leaders said. Israel authorities confess they are singling out the Shiite Lebanese population for destruction. This is textbook ethnic cleansing, described as in Israel's message in the New York Times. I saw a very cute message from Ryan Grimm of Dropsite News calling out Jen's old friend, Sheryl Sandberg. Are you going to say anything about the fact that there are Christians hiding Muslims in Lebanon? No, she's not going to say anything, and neither is anybody else. Because as I've pointed out, and I will point this out again, the last bastion of the pro-Israel movement rests on how much blood from a stone they can drain from the anti-Muslim bigoted crowd. Now, granted, an overwhelming majority of those people are of a certain age and makeup, but we've seen this before. And having to hide people, again, similarities between Nazi Germany and Israel. Yeah, would you hide me? And in this case, we're not talking about people in the affluent class of insane in the membrane, Sheryl Sandberg. Will you hide me, with tears streaming down her $2 billion face? We're talking about actual people in southern Lebanon that are being targeted for mass murder. All because they are Muslim. All because we are facilitating the Greater Israel Project. We're funding it in real time. Now, maybe at some point we stop because the American people will finally come to their senses. This is growing exponentially by the day, which is great, but it's not happening nearly enough. And so, as much as I continue to push the narrative about what could we do for the Palestinian people, knowing that there's very little we can do. The same is true for the Lebanese. This is the same problem. What we can do is what we can do here at home. What are we doing as a people to do away with this? In 10 days, Jen and I will be on Capitol Hill. I don't know what we'll accomplish, but I know that we will be in the company of other people that we can collaborate with further to see what we can do. On Monday night, we will be speaking with the Doctors Against Genocide. We will be meeting them in DC in 10 days. So, is it possible that Polymarket is allowing bets to be made about whether or not Israel fulfills its prophecy of annexing southern Lebanon? Doing another Nakba? Because that's what this is. Only they're going to be using a lot more weaponry to blast away. You would think that they wouldn't, knowing that everybody's watching them in many ways. But no, they will. Is Polymarket taking bets? Maybe. And if they are, is that going to spark any interest for people to step up and say something about it? I doubt it. I doubt it very much. I do believe that the Zios have some very interesting quirks in their tool cabinet. And especially when you consider what the Epstein files have revealed about the Zionist elites, Jewish or Christian, but mostly Jewish. Blood libel doesn't surprise me. So there you go. Now, why is this such a big deal? It's a big deal because, as I've told you guys before, I don't have the need to cover certain content unless it's absolutely relevant, and especially a specific content creator. But leave it to good old little Ben Shapiro to make the triumphant return of Nick Fuentes to revolutionary change. Here we go.
Once again, that there's a difference between people who are asking legitimate questions, which we should always ask about any foreign intervention or any military conflict, and the people who openly root for America's enemies.
You see, little Ben, we don't root for America's enemies. We root for America's liberation, which right now appears to be coming in the form of the Iranian regime. And as we know, this is actually a world war now because they are not doing this all on their own. They have the backing of some of the most powerful nations on earth outside of us. Israel really only has us, and they do have Argentina. We'll get to that shortly. China is involved. China is helping Iran. So is North Korea, and so is Russia. This was a fight that we didn't need, but we decided to take it on because of little Ben Shapiros of the world that get out there and push this Hasbara narrative that we must fight them. I don't know about you guys, but I think we can do away with the likes of little Ben. In fact, I'm not going to pull up the tweet, but I'm going to just let you guys know that the person who likely cost me my job, Laura Looney Loomer, she put out a tweet just a little while ago saying we might as well eviscerate the entire country of Iran in order to get back our one fallen soldier, which again means that everyone is guilty, everyone is dehumanized, and the chosen people perspective reigns supreme over our State Department. And here's little Ben defending what's going on right now. And yes, he did trim his eyebrows. He got the memo. Or maybe it was just that time of the month and he didn't get a chance to shave it. Maybe his private parts is actually on his head. I mean, we all know he's, a weenie or a pussy. Maybe he has one. And in this case, he trimmed it. So he's not done.
People who are saying we ought to cede global power to China, Russia, and Iran. The people who pretend to be America first, and the way they mean America first is, what if we are just fans of the mullahs? Well, here's Nick Fuentes doing that routine, literally saying that he is praying for the mullahs yesterday.
The one thing I can appreciate about Loomer is that if you thought Trump had no filter, that freak show truly has no filter. So when you think about the acceleration of where we're headed at this point, when it comes to the end of the Zio state's stranglehold over our nation, all you have to do is just read Loomer's daily ramblings of a crazy person, and you'll understand why. There are plenty of references that you can use, but little Ben is a little bit, no pun intended, more measured than Looney Loomer is. Loomer just throws it right out there. Kill them all. Let God sort them out, am I right? And of course, she said this over Easter weekend, because why wouldn't she? And again, this is where, when you understand why somebody like Nick Fuentes becomes a voice of reason, it's because of people like them.
Pray for Iran. Pray for the designs of the Jews to fail. That's all we could do. Iran is fighting for the whole world right now. And don't get me wrong, I'm not praying for more casualties. I want that to stop. I want the United States to be finished. But Iran right now is fighting for all of humanity. They really are.
And this is the problem that we run into in politics, where somebody will say it's the right message to wrong messenger, but this is where the embracing of the Fed Fuentes becomes a problem. Because when he's scoring off of you, you are in big trouble. Now, the big problem that we have with the Zio scum is that they are not having any moments of reflection. They are not even tempering their self-destruction even a little bit. No, what they're doing is going into rapid decline, and they're going to pull us all down with them. That's why, if you saw the clip that we dropped a little while ago, if there ever was a time to call for Trump's removal, this is it, because now it is painfully obvious that, much like was to the detriment of all of us when things really got started back in October of 23, we already had a demented president in the White House who was being controlled by a complete Hasbro agent, the real President Blinken, as I called him. And that was just the tip of the iceberg. Remember, liberals sell empire much better than conservatives do. You flip it around and you just put a whole bunch of lunatics into these positions. Now you could see it for all it's worth. And so here we are in a situation with another demented president who kind of has his finger on the button and could easily do something to more or less end humanity. But if Fed Fuentes is going to say what needs to be said, and it's going to rally his millions of people to continue to push up against the Zio scum, like Shapiro and Loomer, we're going to take anything we could get right now, because this is a very dangerous time. And this again gets back to the whole collapse of empire. People betting on whether or not American troops will be killed. That's pretty messed up.
In a way, they're fighting for us. Because if Iran falls, it means Israel controls the entire Middle East.
Okay, well, again, if you are so brain poisoned, if you are so brain poisoned that you are now in the position of arguing in favor of the Iranian regime.
Oh, little Ben Shapiro.
You think you're better than me, Paul? You think you're just hanging here all day, you're higher than me, you're better than me? Yeah, well, I got news for you. You're not. I'm a father. I can think that you are not better than me at all. Yeah, I'll teach you.
Let me tell you, that thing really smashed him good in the nose. It's not like little Ben had a big schnoz to begin with. I mean, you know, it would take two of his to equal one Laura Loomer's. But the point is, you are listening to a very rational statement from Fed Fuentes. And the first thing that Ben decides to do is chastise him for that message, claim that, oh, that speed bag definitely is. Speedball, don't be taking those speedballs, guys. That's pretty dangerous. Speed bag. Speedball is a whole other story. But this is, again, the danger. To mock somebody talking about why is it that we are in support of what Iran is doing. Again, laid all the cards out on the table pretty clearly as far as I can see. The cards are pretty obvious that we don't want the American soldiers to be hurt. They didn't ask for this. Most of them don't want to be there. Imagine that just about all of them don't want to be there. But here we are in a situation where Iran is only scratching the surface of what they're capable of doing. And in the haste of a madman who is still in control of power, being completely blackmailed and run over roughshod by this Zio state that, on the one hand, thinks that they are going to complete some insane greater Israel project, of which it's certifiable at this point that they think that this is possible. However, they're going to take a hell of a lot of people with them. And Benny, not of the Jets, makes this statement, effectively proving Nick's point. That's what he's doing. So to say that Benny is not quick on the uptake would be an understatement, but we'll finish it out.
Which is responsible for the death of hundreds, if not thousands, of Americans, the spread of terror all over the globe, threatening Europe with ballistic missiles, and development of nuclear weapons because you hate Jews that much. Let me just suggest that your problem isn't really the Jews. Your problem is something well beyond that, which is hatred of the civilization that grants you your rights.
Okay, I want you to listen carefully one more time to what this dumb shit had to say.
Threatening Europe with ballistic missiles and development of nuclear weapons because you hate Jews that much. Let me just suggest that your problem isn't really the Jews. Your problem is something well beyond that, which is hatred of the civilization that grants you your rights.
So it always gets back to the same stupid tropey stereotypes, because why not? It's always the Jews. You hate Jews. That's the reason. Although with Fuentes, again, he's one of several that refer to them as the Jews and not the Zionist Jews. Again, nuanced language is very important here. However, the idea that he thinks that the reason we don't want this is because we want to see the end of civilization. This is, again, the level of psychosis that makes no sense. It just doesn't. Iran doesn't attack anybody. We've been trying to go after Iran for the longest time, but as I've pointed out, Iran is one of, I believe, 4 legitimate nations around the world that doesn't have a Rothschild's bank. And I think that's a pretty big deal. I'm not saying it's the only reason, but it's definitely a big one. And so this should not come as any surprise. So this is, again, why when sometimes it's not even a question of the enemy of my enemy is my friend. That's really not what this is. It's, are you firmly against the decimation and destruction of our own country? If you are in favor of Israel, then you are in favor of the death and destruction of our country. And everybody needs to be treated as such. Benny just happens to be one of the more recognizable faces, but there's a lot of them out there. Big time. And now it's being reported that it could be anywhere from 750 to up to 1,000 dead American soldiers out there already. They're doing a hell of a job hiding this. I don't know how that's possible. But you know, one thing that I think we'll probably run into when we're on Capitol Hill, I am willing to bet that there's probably going to be a lot of military families or military family members that will be there, that will be begging for answers about why they haven't heard from their child in weeks. What are they going to tell them? Sorry, the congressman can't meet with you now. We have more important things to do, like go to a fundraiser with the Israel lobby. But I'm willing to bet that we will run into quite a few of people like that. That I'm anticipating. And so one of the more, again, at least 100 dead. But none of them should be. This is the thing. We're there for reasons that make absolutely no sense. And so now the major conversation of the week is where all of this kind of came together. And that was when Joe Rogan had on Theo Von. Now, I just want to point out one thing before we start this. There has been a lot of commentary regarding Theo Von and whether he has repented for his comments. I just have to say, for one particular person in the Democratic establishment, no matter how much he tries to pretend like he isn't, Mehdi Hasan, who I have met personally, is without question a hack for the Democratic establishment. He just is. Now, he may not want to hear that, and that might offend him, since he's known to be very sensitive about a lot of this. But he decided to attack Theo Von for having a change of heart about Trump, even though Theo Von helped get Trump elected. He did. Do you remember when Trump was campaigning and how he said, I'm totally going to end the wars. The wars are going to be over. We're totally going to end them. And I'm going to help the Palestinian people. Yeah, he did say that. That's one of the reasons why a lot of people decided to back him, including a lot of people in Dearborn, Michigan, and why Michigan went to Trump. Now, of course, he's full of shit. We all know that. But you can say all you want, Mehdi, about how Trump is full of shit. We know he is. And so is Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, and the rest of the Democratic Party establishment, which you blow so much smoke up their ass, even though you pretend like you don't. Who was responsible for the start of this genocide? Who was funding their genocide? It wasn't Trump. It was the Democrats. But that's an inconvenient truth that so often wants to be overlooked. It's not like this just started out of nowhere. And again, I'm not here to defend Trump. We all know he's Miriam Adelson's bitch. But the Israel lobby, their tentacles are very deep. So while everyone is focused almost blindly on AIPAC, trust me, Kufi, DMFI, ADL, there's plenty of organizations out there that are doing exactly what AIPAC is doing. And in many cases, they're funding the Democrats. You know why? Because the Democrats are likely to win the midterms. Go check their money. See where it's coming from. You're not going to like what you find. But here's what Theo Von had to say in a couple of instances.
Well, it's just a cat and mouse game. People are like, we'll elect the Democrats next time. It's like, but it's all the same shit has been happening forever. They haven't been helping anybody forever. They're letting fucking politicians slurp on kids. All of our fucking money goes to Israel and they're using it to fucking genocide people. It's like everybody is scared out of their wits right now. It's like our religious leaders are afraid to speak out. And it's like it's a time where it's like Satan is amongst us and our religious leaders are fucking talking about bullshit at the poll. It's just like, what is going, I don't know, man.
I know what I feel Theo's anger. I think we all do. And he's absolutely right. Everything he just said is spot on. Let's play it one more time.
It's all just a cat and mouse game. People are like, we'll elect the Democrats next time. It's like, but it's all the same shit has been happening forever. They haven't been helping anybody forever. They're letting fucking politicians slurp on kids. All of our fucking money goes to Israel and they're using it to fucking genocide people. It's like everybody is scared out of their wits right now. It's like our religious leaders are afraid to speak out. And it's like it's a time where it's like Satan is amongst us and our religious leaders are fucking talking about bullshit at the poll. It's just like, what is going, I don't know, man.
Now, I don't know how much that statement is accurate. I mean, I know that I know that he's hung out with Kushner and Ivanka. I've seen the pictures. If you're talking like this, I don't know how good of friends you could possibly be. Again, when you think about the Epstein files, when you think about endless war, when you think about cost of living. And he's absolutely right. The thing that he pointed out in this clip that is very true is a lot of people are scared right now. Do I think that there are a slew of just outright neocons that want to see the world burn and they absolutely hate everything and anything that they see, like the Lindsey Grahams of the world? Yes, they exist, but they're not that many. I do believe that a substantial portion of people who had supported Trump, I'm not talking about what you see on social media, guys. I'm talking about everyday life. What we see in everyday life is that this is a big problem because most people cannot afford to live. And if that's the case, what difference does it make whether you elect the red or the blue? There really isn't. You're going to get, well, let's be honest, you're going to get fucked either way. It just depends on how hard and how often. But right now, with the system outright collapsing the way that it is, there's a lot of detrimental situations that we're going to be faced with. And yes, Israel is desperate, but when a desperate, wounded animal is backed into a corner and they have control, oh boy, they're going to leave a mark and they're going to keep trying. And it is on us to not allow that to happen. And for anybody who's wondering, Theo Von is actually from West Virginia. So if you're hating on the mullet, that's just that's who he is. He's a country bumpkin guy who's done very well for himself. And I actually get a kick out of him. And so if he supported Trump, I don't have to agree, but I sure as hell were not supporting Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. So there is no argument here. The Democrats are not better people. In fact, I believe the Democrats are even worse because they sell empire better. They get people to go back to sleep because of decorum politics, which is the hallmark of their bullshit ideology. Friend of the show, Nick Cruz, pointed out the other day with friend of the show, Rothbone. The people in left politics are not trying to corral AOC. They're not trying to pressure her. What they're trying to do is get her to speak in a way that is palatable to people, even though she's full of shit. And that's a huge part of the problem. Guys, we are trying to get to 1,000 live viewers. If you haven't hit that like button yet, please make sure that you do. He's Louisiana. I don't know why I thought he was West Virginia. Maybe he lived in West Virginia at one time. I could have sworn that I remember hearing that about him. But yeah, Louisiana. So, okay, so he's a Bayou guy. But either way, he's still pretty cool. Oh, and back down we go again. If you haven't hit that like button yet, guys, I cannot emphasize this enough. We get throttled by the algorithm constantly. We're honing in on 120,000 live viewers, live subscribers, excuse me. And yet we still need to fight that algorithm. So please hit that like button if you haven't already. So Theo has a little bit more to say, and now Joe decides to chime in.
We see like how it all played out and why it is what it is today. Jesus Christ, you'd be mad too.
Yeah.
And when you're mad and you're surrounded by bigger enemies that all have nuclear weapons, you don't even have nuclear weapons, wouldn't you be trying to make them? You know what I'm saying?
Yes. And what's even more amazing is you've got now two major problems as a result of starting this war on Israel's behalf in Iran. We didn't have an issue with the Strait of Hormuz until we decided to bomb the shit out of them. And now we don't have it anymore. And now inflation has, again, you could say inflation's gone through the roof. Oh, inflation already is through the roof. Now it's going even higher through the roof. Now it's going to the moon. So now what? How much more do you want to take? And all because we have decided that we're not willing to fight back. Creatures of comfort, whatever the reasons are. You can think what you want about Rogan. But the thing I've noticed about Rogan for a while, he kind of goes where his guest goes. You can watch a podcast that he did a few years back with somebody like Little Ben and see where his conversation went. Then you could see a conversation that he had with somebody like Dr. Cornel West. And it's a completely different conversation. The same is true when he has on somebody like Theo Von versus if he has on Crystal and Sagar from Breaking Points. It really just depends on the topic at hand. And to Joe's credit, he has the ability to just kind of go along with whatever the topic of the day is. But therein lies the big problem with Rogan. There is no pushback. There's also something very interesting about Rogan I'm going to point out after this clip, but we'll continue.
I'm not saying Iran should have nuclear weapons. I don't think anybody should have nuclear weapons. But definitely
Israel
should.
gets to have them.
Allegedly. This is the problem.
Do you know that it is on record that Israel has never actually declared that they have nuclear weapons? We all know they have. We all know that we lost a pretty solid American president as a result. But on paper, Israel does not have nuclear weapons. So that's why everyone has to say, allegedly. That's right. I'm going to get to, well, you know what? I can get to it now. So there's an interesting tidbit about Mr. Rogan. I was pointed out the other day. Joe Rogan is a very wealthy man. We know that. He's had a very successful show for a very long time. He's had on some of the biggest guests. I'm not going to say that he single-handedly got Trump elected in 24. That would be way too gracious. However, do I think that he had an impact on swing voters in various places? Yeah, I think so. I think that's safe to say. And he has done very well for himself. But as much as Rogan would like to claim that he's a very neutral, nonpartisan, and principled individual, one of his sponsors is ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN is an Israeli company. I would say that Charlie Kirk had much more of an impact on Trump's election than Joe Rogan. Yes, I agree. ExpressVPN is an Israeli company, tech that they like to call themselves, but we all know what they're really doing. They paid Joe Rogan $400,000 a week. It's $2 million a month. It's $24 million a year. You think he's going to give up that sponsorship so easily? Probably not. Now, could he probably make that money some other way? Knowing how big his podcast still is? Sure. But remember, indifference is one of the great sins of American exceptionalism. It's not a question of whether Rogan cares or not. It's really a question of whether or not he's willing to sacrifice in order to remain principled. And now you have your answer. He's just not. We'll finish it up.
Allegedly.
Everything's allegedly with them.
Allegedly.
Except for the genocide.
You know, they don't officially have them.
Right.
I don't think they admit they officially have them. And you know who is a big opponent of Israel getting nuclear weapons?
JFK.
JFK.
Now, I highly doubt that Israel wants to hear somebody like Rogan making a statement like that with Theo Von, because it's been the red herring for a very long time. And the more we notice, the more we realize that, yeah, whether Israel did the deed or not, they were definitely involved. And much like we're going to discuss on the latter half of the show, when it comes to Tyler Robinson, we know a PATSY when we see one.
Yeah. That's what a lot of people think led back into the left.
Oh, yeah. Before they killed him, who? I don't know.
So
What'd
the
you
Iranian
say?
Revolution, also called the Islamic Revolution, was a mass.
And every once in a while, he'll say something that sounds like, oh, he's definitely on the right side. I don't trust him, and I don't want anybody else to trust him. But it is imperative that when certain people say certain things that people listen and understand. Because every time it becomes an Israel did it, another person finally comes to the realization that, yeah, Israel did do it. I don't listen to Rogan anymore. The only time I hear him is if I have a clip about somebody else saying something important that he just happens to be interviewing him on. And in this case, he did say something that was pretty relevant. So, credit where it's due. But I'm not in any way going to be susceptible to whether or not I think, oh, yeah, Rogan's turned a corner. Can't have turned a corner. He's taking filthy money. Can't do that. I think you may be noticing quite a bit, Ken. Just a bit. Oh, come on now. That's not true. Being on Easter weekend, you got to start with that. If you're enjoying this conversation so far, please consider going over to patreon.com/revolutionary change. For as little as $5 a month, you can become a supporter of our still small but mighty and growing channel as we hone in on 120,000 subscribers. So if you haven't smashed that like button yet, please make sure that you do. And let's get this going with our super chatters. Stacy Hanaway, thank you for becoming a YouTube member, and I really like that profile picture. Noah Linden with the $2. Hello there, kind and friendly internet denizens. Absolutely. Appreciate you, my friend. Citizen Pendejo with the 20 pesos. New reports indicate 300,000 Zios taking over Andinia. That's how you're going to say it? Yeah, I was going to get to that. I'm assuming our guest is going to be here. By the way, credit to all of you guys that have helped grow our channel. We now have 2 running loops of $5 patrons. So awesome sauce, guys. We really appreciate it. Citizen Bendejo with the 20 pesos again. You agree? Defund Israel and CBS TikTok Palantir go broke. Well, we all know that Palantir is Big Brother. We all know that TikTok is now pretty much useless in many ways. CBS, front for the Ellisons, but the Zios in general. And of course, Israel is Israel. So we have to deal accordingly. Motor Jason with the $5. Trump voice. Peter. Okay, fine. Peter, this is a fantastic podcast. I bet you have terrific ratings. Even without the lovely Jen, you've got big, huge ratings. Yes, on Saturday nights, we do pretty good. And despite what some people may think, it just happens to be the right night of the week. And it is the holiday weekend. So hopefully a lot of you guys are kicking back, having a good time. And if you're enjoying our channel as well, we're very much appreciative that you are here. Ken Min G with the 279 Canadian A. Part of the problem is people read The Guardian. I don't know how much of that is actually the reason, but I think it can contribute. And Ken Min G with the 279 again. Morandi said that The Guardian is garbage and fake. Well, not going to get an argument from me either. Kenneth Locke with the $5 super sticker. It's always nice. You see, the one thing we really do appreciate about our super chatters is that we do get to see our cute friends that have a nice profile picture. Anytime it's a cat or a dog, you know we love to see them. So even if you're chipping in a little bit, just want to let us know that your special pooch is doing good. By all means, we really appreciate it. And H299 with the $9.99. Thank you very much for the super sticker. We really appreciate it. And right now it is about 5 after. Rach, if you're there, please get me an update because I'm going to go into another story. I'm not going to wait. Although I know on the West Coast, some people like to be fashionably late. That's common practice or common etiquette. I hope they got the time right. So it goes without saying that the escape plan is pretty clear because things are getting bad. And we keep talking about it. What is actually happening right now is that Israel, despite their bluster, they're really in a lot of trouble. It's pretty clear that they are. But when we showed you a couple of months ago about the arson fires that just miraculously started in places just outside of Buenos Aires, is it any surprise? Is it any surprise? I don't think so. So here's the latest about what's going on in Israel South. We'll call it Israel South. We'll call it whatever you want. But the irony of the tie-ins with the Nazis is unbelievable. This is what's going on right now in Argentina.
Filtrado a la prensa el informe confidencial catalogado bajo el expediente número MS-26. El documento coordina la preparación de un plan preventivo para acoger hasta 300.000 refugiados israelíes.
So obviously I can't read Portuguese, but or Spanish, excuse me. I don't know why I thought I was reading Portuguese, but no, it's Spanish in Brazil. It's Spanish in Argentina, Portuguese in Brazil. And so 300,000 refugees, 300,000 is how many Argentina is now taking in. If things are going so well in Israel, things are going so well against Iran, why would this many people be fleeing? This is almost 5% of Israel's population, and this is just the beginning. Who's to say that there isn't going to be a ground invasion in Israel? Hey, I'm here. it could be really, really bad. The question is, why is Argentina taking them in? Argentina, unfortunately, has a history of just having a completely corrupt government, always siding with fascism. But little do people know just how much Javier Milei Akowski is destroying Argentina. They got their puppet, and their puppet is doing their bidding. And so here we are, watching this horrific situation unfold, because now they have their escape plan. I don't want them to get away with this. I don't want the Eichmann Mengele escape plans to be fulfilled by these bastards. At least now you know where they're going.
En Argentina. Este llamado plan preventivo nace como respuesta directa a la guerra impulsada por Estados Unidos e Israel contra la República Islámica de Irán. Y el documento arroja un sesgo alarmante. El operativo humanitario y la logística estatal están diseñados única y exclusivamente para acoger hasta 300.000 ciudadanos del Estado de Israel.
Now think about this, as he mentions the reason why Hitler escaped in Argentina. Well, I know some people believe that. I can't say for sure if that's true or not. I have accepted the fact that history has shown that you can pretty much write it however which way you want to write it. So you can just make up whatever you want. If that's what you choose to do, then that's fine. But I want to say this. If you don't make it a point to deal with them sooner rather than later, they're going to take over your country. 300,000, and considering most of them are going to have the financial backing of the powers that be, they're going to come in and they're going to run roughshod over your whole fucking country. No es bueno. Don't let them in. And if you do let them in, deal with them. We already see how Mexico's dealing with them. Argentina and its people need to rise up against their tyrannical government, which is basically owned by us in Israel. That's what's happening. Argentina is going to completely collapse under its own weight when all of the Zios find their way there. Hopefully the Aussies are smart enough to know that it's time to start pushing them out. But yes, this is where we are, and I'll show you why in a minute. There you go. It's bribery gone run amok.
A pesar de que la guerra afecta a toda la región, el plan del gobierno omite por completo ofrecer refugio a poblaciones iraníes u otras víctimas civiles del conflicto, enfocando todos los recursos del Estado argentino en una sola nacionalidad, Israel. Conocidos los detalles del informe, vemos que no se trata, por tanto, de un plan humanitario, sino de subordinarse a las necesidades del Estado de Israel. Lamentablemente, hay más factores preocupantes para añadir a la situación. Se ha filtrado a los medios documentación que revela la existencia de un proyecto urbanístico aprobado por el Ministerio de Obras Públicas argentino para crear lo que los argentinos llaman un country, una urbanización privada en la Patagonia.
So, again, I don't know if anybody is just listening or is actually watching the Spanish to English, the English to, Spanish to English translation. So effectively, what's happening here is two things. Argentina was attempting to take in refugees from a few different countries around the world, and Syria in particular. And they have provided no resources for them. All the resources are going to the Israelis. And it looks like Patagonia is a place that is being completely privately developed for the Zios. So that appears to be the city that they're going to take over. This is just the beginning. When it becomes, Israel South, if you will, think about how many more are going to find their way there. It's like colonizing Mars, only now they're colonizing Argentina. Argentina's been colonized quite a few times. So this is not a surprise. I truly feel bad for the people of Argentina. I do. They didn't ask for this.
Tierras quemadas por el fuego, llamado Barrio Privado Josué, profeta de Israel. Este barrio privado va a tener nada menos que 100.000 hectáreas. 100.000 hectáreas. Esto es 4 veces la superficie de Gaza.
That's a big problem. And we know it's a big problem. And this is why I point this out to the Argentinians that are living there that think, well, they're just going to go to Patagonia and they're going to take that over. No, that is not what's going to happen. This is going to get so much worse so quickly, you can't even see it coming. However, we have a good frame of reference here, and I'll show you why. Now, this has been making the rounds on social media because this is something, it's harsh. Argentina has been trying to colonize it for over a century. Hey, listen, you know what? That's probably why they may do that now. And again, Zizou, I understand that anywhere but Palestine, Peter. Do you really think that they will not come in with the guns a-blazing if they have to? Of course they will. This is why they're a blight on humanity. It isn't just Palestine. We are all Palestine, and they'll bring it wherever they go. That's the problem. Put them all on a desert island and let them figure out how to live off the land if they can. And if they can't, tough shit. Their whole ideology is a death cult. And I don't want to have anything to do with them. But we are giving our money to Argentina to facilitate this. So as I said, if you think that this is not something that can come close to home, trust me when I tell you, this was filmed, I believe, in the Bronx earlier this week.
Trying to scam my boy out his property. Look, it's the second time he came around talking about he trying to get him.
Hey, Daniel,
trying to scam.
I came to do inspection of the house.
Ain't no inspection. You don't own the house. Get out of here.
Daniel,
you don't own
Daniel,
nothing.
You know there's a court order.
Like, get court order.
He must vacate.
No, get out of here. Fake ass court order. Look at this nigga trying to scam.
You know, for as long as anybody has come up with a Jewish stereotype, the whole idea of, well, he came with the legal documents, so that must mean it's official. If you look closely as to this particular area, it's pretty obvious what they're doing here. I'll blow it up again. If you look in the back, you can see that this is not exactly a wealthy area. This is a working class area. So naturally, they want to go in and try to take advantage of the weak and the people who do not have the financial means to put or to deal with this. That's a problem. It's not like this guy is rolling into a neighborhood in the Upper East Side, although that's where all of his people live. No, this becomes a much bigger problem because the vulnerable live in an area, but New York's real estate is still considered highly valuable. So perhaps they can kick him out. If this guy, stereotypically, as I would assume, perhaps lives in Riverdale, but has decided to find his way into the South Bronx because maybe there's a development opportunity that they see that's coming that they think will be valuable if they were to just push some people out of their homes that are not worth much now, but they will be in the future. And this is what they do. And when you have the courts behind you, what do you expect? So the same problem is going to happen in a place like Patagonia. All of these places are subject to the same problem. Like I said, let them go to an island, let them live off the island, and see if they can hack it. That's their responsibility. But this is what is on the regular. This is what they do. It just so happens that somebody decided to start filming it, and now you know that it's real.
I've been here for years. Get out of here, bro. Get out of here. He's born here. Get out of here. When they call the cops, you came, the cops came, they did nothing. Get out of here. Yo, oh yeah. I don't know if you know this guy's trying to scam. We're not playing over here. We're not playing. We don't give a fuck about that little fake ass hat. We knock his fucking hat off. We not.
You see, he's not expecting anything to happen. He thinks he's a protected class. But this guy who sounds like he is, Puerto Rican, Dominican, he's basically telling him, get the fuck out of here because we're gonna kill you. You're not coming here. You're not taking over our neighborhood. That's what they have a hard time understanding, is that not too long ago, even 2.5 years ago, they would have probably had a lot more weight to throw around in getting this done. Now that the word's out, they're not going to be able to do this anymore. And when people try to throw legal eagles, which is again it's a Jewish stereotype, it's a total trope, yes, but it's only a trope because it's true. This guy doesn't have the physical capability of fighting anybody. He has a vagina between his legs. But he has the legal system for now. And so that's what they're banking on. They're banking on the legal system to continue to protect them and destroy people's lives so they can make a few more bucks. Like I said, if Argentina allows the takeover of their country, now that Israel is taking it on the chin, this is the type of shit that they're going to find happening in their neighborhoods. Now, of course, like I said, in New York City, especially in the Bronx, this type of shit doesn't fly at all. Not this one's.
Not playing, you heard me? We not playing. I'm trying to play. I'm trying to get him the fuck out of here before he gets himself hurt out here, you heard? We don't give a fuck about that hat, you heard? We don't give a fuck about that hat. We'll knock his fucking head off.
The great noticing continues because now the person is basically telling him, we're on to you, and he's referring to the hat, the little hat. That's the way that this is playing out. The little hat is a problem, and that's what the people are now picking up on. And that's the word that's going around. Yeah, we're family here in this chat. We keep it square, but we keep it honest every time. This is one of the biggest reasons why people don't say anything, because they might lose their job, their livelihood. I've been there. But you have to be able to live with yourself. And this phenomenal community is helping our channel grow so that maybe, just maybe, I might be able to make enough where I can get another job, but not have to rely on it in the immediacy, because I have you guys that are here backing us up. That's wonderful. We're not there yet, but doesn't mean we can't get there. But not everybody has that ability. Not everybody has that luxury. This is a very serious, volatile situation. This person, this guy is rolling up into a neighborhood of which he's doing it in broad daylight. He's doing it with security. But the guy who's living there is basically telling him, yo, you're not getting out of here alive if you think you're going to kick this person out of their house and take their shit. You're not doing it. And let's be clear, ladies and gentlemen, as somebody who does commercial real estate, I can assure you that this guy, he's not trying to get that apartment or that townhouse because he's planning to live there. No, he's planning to take it over and rent it out and make the money off of the ownership to the person who now will dwell. The person who's there currently apparently doesn't have it. So they want him out. But the community, to their credit, is coming together and saying, you're not going to do this. You will not do this here. And if you want to see what a war in the streets looks like, try doing this in the Bronx. As somebody who was born in New York, raised in Jersey, and spent a lot of time in the Bronx, you don't fuck around with people there. I lived in the Bronx for 2 years, okay? I lived in a very rough neighborhood. I heard gunshots. I had my car broken into multiple times. People stole shit out of my car. I was very lucky because my neighbor happened to be an ex-cop who kept a shotgun 12 gauge by his door. Basically told everybody in the neighborhood, this white guy's cool. Let him be. I would do anything for that guy. If somebody rolled up on him and said, hey, we're taking your house, you're not going to do anything about it. Are you fucking kidding me? Yeah, you bet your ass we will. Especially with people like this. This guy doesn't know the meaning of the word hard living if it smacked him upside his dumbass head and knocked off his stupid hat. But that's what they do. This is who these people are. And normally, I wouldn't care. I don't have anything to do with them. I would imagine most people don't. But now it's being shown time and again that they are in the middle of our daily lives. We don't want them there. You want to go and pray hours and hours on end per day? That's fine. Do whatever you want. So long as you're not in my way, again, very libertarian living as far as I'm concerned. But if you think you're going to get in my way of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, or anybody else's for that matter, who are barely scraping enough to get by, oh, dude, they are just asking for it. And I'm not going to go here and say that you're going to see something like Crystal Knock, Midnight Hammer, any of that shit. What I am saying is that little by little, their ideology is going to die because people will not do business with them anymore. And they shouldn't. We're heading for revolution anyway. So it's pretty clear to me that something significant is going to happen. I am mad. I'm even more mad at the fact that people try to downplay whether or not the Talmud has some fucked up shit in it. It does. Extremely. But as I said, do most people practice this nonsense? Probably not. But that doesn't mean there aren't ones that do. And this is exactly why when they attempt to take over, we can't let them. And it comes to a bigger problem because they're doing it in ways that they're going to throw their money around. That's what they've always done, and that's what they always will do. Colin, can I have the Boston article, please? Did you know that on the Freedom Trail in Boston, they're building a Holocaust museum right now? It broke ground in the spring of 2025. Really makes you wonder when they decided to start putting this together. Holocaust Museum Boston, which opens in late 2026, arrives at a trying time for the Jewish community. Northeastern grads Todd Rutterman and Jody Kipnis explained how their museum bridges the past and present in new ways. Oh, look at that lovely group of rich aristocrats in downtown Boston. Hey, it's Paul Revere's building. Oh, and there's the Holocaust Museum. Do not think for a second that there was not intention behind putting this museum on the fucking Freedom Trail. Now, when you get your Freedom Trail tour, you're going to be required to enter and view the Holocaust Museum. Well, no more guided tours. Just do it yourself. When Todd Rutterman and Jody Kipnis visited the Auschwitz concentration camp in 2018, they didn't know it would lead them to build New England's first Holocaust museum. Bullshit. But 8 years later, the seed planted by that life-changing experience is bearing fruit. Holocaust Museum Boston, opened in late 2026, aims to bring a different approach to Holocaust education to visitors who step through its doors, bridging the tragedy of the past with the anxieties of the present to effect change. Ain't that charming? You used to go to these museums and be like, wow, that was horrible. That happened in the past. It'll never happen again. What we're saying, it's not only can it happen again, it will happen again if we don't if we don't change and do something differently. Oh, so effectively what they're telling you is we are committing genocide right now, and perhaps people might do the same to us, and we need to be prepared. So let's remind people of why we are allowed to do whatever we want. Why else would they be doing this right now? It doesn't really make sense. Now, does it, folks? Let's keep going. For Rudderman and Kipnis, the museum, which Rudderman said is the most advanced Holocaust education museum to date, is an intensely personal project. Both grew up in Greater Boston, raised their families there, and have been active in the city's Jewish community as members and full-on rapists, philanthropists. That's a shout out to Charlie Day. Rudderman and Kipnis graduated from Northeastern, where Rudderman is still active as a donor and supporter of the university's Students in Jewish Studies program, because of course that's very important for you to finance, before going on to work in real estate and the dental field, respectively. But it wasn't until the trip to Poland in 2018 and they started to understand the extent of the Holocaust history. Yeah, sure. That's when they started to figure it out. They grew up in the Greater Boston suburban area. It was instilled in them from the time that they were kids. The only reason they're doing this now is because Israel is in a lot of trouble. So naturally, the rich Zio scum that live in New England, and there are plenty of them, it's not just New York, Miami, Chicago, and LA, and San Francisco. New England, huge Zio population. Rudderman, Kipnis, and their longtime friend and Holocaust survivor David Schachter, who recently passed, visited several concentration camps and Holocaust-related sites, including the former Warsaw Ghetto. They stood on the grounds of Auschwitz, where their friend had spent several horrific years of his life. When they left Poland, David stood up on the bus with everybody who was going back to the airport and said, "Now you've seen this. You've heard my story. What are you going to do about it?" We kind of took it to heart, and on the plane ride back, we planned to do something. Planned to do something, huh? Oh, they did. They did something, all right. How can we make money off this? Because again, why not just be a total walking, talking stereotype of the highest order? Oh, don't they look lovely? Let's keep going. Together, Rudderman and Kipnis established the Holocaust Legacy Foundation and the Holocaust Legacy Fellowship. It gave teens the chance to meet survivors and make the same trip to Poland that had changed Rudderman and Kipnis' lives. However, the COVID-19 pandemic essentially ended their fellowship, so they started making plans for what, at the time, Kipnis said, felt like a big crazy idea to build a Holocaust museum on the Freedom Trail in Boston. For Rudderman, the idea cut to the heart of what he wanted to do, make the biggest and broadest impact possible. Yes, absolutely, because, what better way to make an impact than to spend tens of millions, if not $100 million plus to build another museum, because there isn't enough of them in this country or around the world. Why don't you build a museum in downtown Boston for all of the Minutemen that fought the Redcoats and were allowed the revolution to come forward? We don't have one of those in Boston, even though Boston is an amazing city for history. The state of Massachusetts is an amazing city for history. But I would think that would make a lot more sense. But nope. Let's have another Holocaust museum, and let's put it where everyone walks through the city when they come to visit. For Rudderman, the idea cut to the heart of what he wanted to do. A fellowship, I thought, was our lifetime would affect it in the hundreds. With a museum, we could bring 100,000 people through there over a year. Oh, yes. Rudderman and Kipnis embarked on a national and international tour of Holocaust memorials and museums so that they can get the special sauce all put together to figure out exactly what's missing. Because why not? Let's keep going. They took all those experiences to heart as they crafted an experience that takes the historical rigor and best and meets the needs of the present. We didn't want to build a typical museum that read like an encyclopedia with words on the wall. We also learned from being at these museums that the challenge today isn't about accessing info, it's the connection. So about convincing people that they just haven't gotten it yet. Hold on, let's show that picture. Do you have any fucking idea how much that building's going to cost? This is, let me count it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 5 floors. This is on the Freedom Trail in downtown Boston. That appears to me to be at least probably 25,000 square foot property. When I tell you that this is in the tens of millions of dollars, maybe the hundreds, that's what you're looking at. Where do you think that money's coming from? A chunk of it's going to be privately funded, absolutely. But this is going to require the Boston taxpayers to pay this shit off. That's where it's going to come from in many respects. When you control the city council, you get what you want. You get the money where you want it to go. And in this case, it's going to go to this. Let's keep going. So I believe that's it. And so why do I bring this up? I bring it up because I want people to see exactly what happens when you have those that choose to profit off of tragedy. And this is common, and we've seen this a lot. Colin, I need the article of Joseph Gert, please. And Ash, I see you. As soon as we finish up on this, I'll bring you right in. The problem that we have here isn't that people shouldn't have these opportunities for memorials and whatnot. The problem we have here is that there are people who want to profit off of tragedy. And that's the problem. And this is an example of tragedy in the worst way possible. Man who claimed to have escaped Auschwitz admits he lied for years. Joseph Hurt said he fabricated the story of being sent to camp and meeting Nazi doctor Joseph Mengele to keep memories alive about history of the Holocaust. One of the things that guest Norman Finkelstein has said time and again when he's been on here is that when it came to the profiteering off of the Second World War, in particular off the Holocaust, is that there were many people who were in Auschwitz who had the tattoo and had it removed. And then there were those who were not there who had it put on. So a Pennsylvania man who claimed for years to have escaped Auschwitz met track and field star Jesse Owens and Nazi doctor Joseph Mengele confessed on Friday that he fabricated the entire story. I am writing today to apologize publicly for harm caused to anyone because of my inserting myself into the descriptions of life in Auschwitz. I was not a prisoner there. I did not intend to lessen or overshadow the events which truly happened there by falsely claiming to have been personally involved. I was wrong. I asked for forgiveness. I determined at that moment to do everything in my power to prevent the loss of the truth about wartime life and death in Auschwitz. So in other words, you became another war profiteer, which is something that we find all too common these days. For years, Hurt gave public speeches about his experiences in the Second World War, including his Jewish family's flight from Poland to Belgrade. But he also told people that he was arrested by the Nazis, sent to the concentration camp at Auschwitz, and met Mengele, the SS physician who tortured prisoners of the concentration camp and escaped to Argentina. Don't forget that. Hurt claimed to have escaped under an electric fence at the camp. He added an extraordinary prologue and epilogue to the story, saying that he saw Adolf Hitler turn his back on Jesse Owens at the 1936 Olympics. Boy, he's just full of stories, isn't he? And then he met Eleanor Roosevelt and Owens after his arrival in the U.S. In his letter, Hurt said that he realized it wasn't about me. Are you sure about that? And that he was motivated to lie by his fears that the history and horrors of the camp would be forgotten. He said that he was shocked to find that Auschwitz, now a museum and memorial, had become a clean and polished tourist destination where visitors laughed and joked about propaganda. Flagrant denial and ignorance of the truth made me determined to keep memories alive. I used poor judgment and faulty reasoning, risking a sullying of the truth I was trying to share. You made a lot of money along the way. Earlier this year, New York history teacher Andrew Reed became suspicious of Hert's story and wrote a refutation of many of Hert's points. The names of concentration camp victims and survivors are publicly available, and there is no record of Hurt at Auschwitz or elsewhere. Hurt admitted in his letter that he had tattooed the camp number on Auschwitz survivor Primo Levi, the acclaimed author and chemist, on his left forearm. So again, just as Norman Finkelstein said multiple times on our channel, as he also said with Candace Owens, there were people that took it off the tattoo, and there were those who put it on. Joseph Hurt, one of the people who is profiteering off of suffering from many moons ago, and that's exactly what Israel is today, profiting off of pain and suffering of many years before. And now you see a Holocaust museum being erected in Boston right now. Reed also found that Hert's escape story did not fit with camp records. That Mengele did not arrive at the camp until after the alleged escape, and other lies, errors, and far-fetched claims in Hert's account. He was a 6-year-old Polish boy and extraordinarily unlikely to be anywhere near Hitler at the Olympics. And Owens' biographer found the snub was a likely fabrication, possibly conflated with another black sprinter story. I want to be clear, I'm not a Holocaust denier. It is partly in his memory and for the preservation of the truth of what millions of people endured that I have taken upon myself the task of exposing Mr. Hert's shameful deception. Hurt is not the first to fabricate or exaggerate a Holocaust story. Worrying historians who fear these voices encourage people who deny the deaths of the 6 million people. It's about 5.2. Herman Rosenblatt, a Polish survivor, embellished in his 93 memoir and made up some parts entirely, including the love story at the heart. And at the time, historian Ken Waltzer wrote in the New Republic that he was alarmed by how quickly people accepted the story. And in conclusion, the reason why they accept the story is because there is a fear about what could happen again. And therein lies the rub. It's not just with what happened at Auschwitz. It's what's happened throughout history. It's what's happening right now in Gaza. It's what will inevitably happen in southern Lebanon. It's what could happen in Argentina. If we don't speak up, if we don't use our platforms to speak truth to power when it is inconvenient to do so in many respects, that is why I'm speaking truth to power now. And that is why I am actually very honored and pleased to bring in somebody who I have actually followed for many years, because I, like my guest Ashley Conrad, live the fit lifestyle. And at a time where I didn't have a lot of money, but thankfully I have this little thing that I could listen to Ashley's training on, I was able to learn that much more about how to physically take care of myself and how the magic of what Big Pharma does in the United States is prey on the fact that we are not a healthy country. But if we were, we would have no reason for them to exist. Ashley Conrad, welcome to Revolutionary Change.
Thank you so much. It's amazing.
You're on mute, my friend. There we go. Well, it says that you're on mute. No, still can't hear you. All right. Colin, what do you think? What do we got to do?
Is this better?
There we go.
Is that better? Okay, perfect.
It's very nice to meet you. How's everything going?
It's going great. It's great to be here.
Absolutely. So I knew about what you had been doing, from a fitness standpoint for a number of years. And obviously that was very important to me, but I've also been paying attention to a lot of what you've been talking about. And the thing that I fear that enough people are not willing to do is speak up about the fact that we do live in a country that systemically tries to poison us. And it's not that they necessarily want us dead. It's that they want us as lethargic as possible so that they can make as much money off of us as possible.
Correct.
So when it came to the pandemic in particular, I was always, I was of the same mindset of yours, which is if you want to take the jab, take it, but do not force people to do it. And I ran into a similar problem in New York as you ran into in LA, where I waited until the last possible minute. It came out in December of 20. I ended up taking it in August of 21, and I made sure to take the Pfizer. At that point, there was enough information out there to know you don't want to take the mRNA vaccine. And the only reason I took it was because my work required me to take it when I was going into New York. So I had to make a decision. And I made one that you could say, it's regretful because I didn't want to do it. But knowing what we know now, this is also part of the reason why I push for single payer healthcare, because I don't believe that big pharma has a reason to exist, much less private insurance. So what has been your odyssey from a political standpoint that has brought you to this point?
Well, I mean, the first thing is as human beings, we should have free will to do what we want with our bodies. We should not be forced to inject ourselves with big pharma just because there's a virus going on. And so I, during that time was receiving death threats because, if you do the research on vaccines, this, number one, even if you don't believe there was nefarious intent with this, which I think now all the evidence has come out, we all know that there was, all know that this was planned. This was rushed to market. And if you look at the two people that were leading that charge, Bill Gates and Fauci, I mean, look, this just from a common sense standpoint, Gates had been saying for years, we need to depopulate. So anything he tells us to do, I'm going to go in the opposite direction. But then when you dug deeper into the vaccines and why would they have forced this on us? And to your point, yes, you're absolutely correct. They don't want to kill us because a dead customer isn't a profitable customer. Right. But what they do want is they want us to be sick enough to where we have to go and we have a lifetime of health issues. And that's what I've seen since 2020. Whether I'm on discovery calls or with clients, I'm seeing more vaccine injuries, more cancer, more autoimmune, where people got vaccinated and then in the next 12 to 24 months, now they've got these horrendous health diagnoses and they're now going to be a customer for life. I mean, I have a client right now who she was vaccine injured. It turned on Addison's. Doctors had her on over 20 prescription medications when she came to me, which is just crazy. I mean, it's just everything between antidepressants and Adderall. I mean, why are we giving somebody with an autoimmune disease Adderall? It's sad, quite frankly. But yeah, I'm sorry to hear that was your experience and that was forced on you, because it's a story for so many people.
Yeah, it's definitely a story that is a far more commonplace than people want to admit. But, there's a reason why we call our channel Revolutionary Change. It's not that we want revolution. It's that revolution is simply inevitable. The system is broken beyond repair. If you, as an LA resident, have seen all of the things that have transpired, even of the past 15, 20 years, for example, in terms of cost of living and how so much of the problems just becomes it's either more bureaucracy or more outright, oligarchy, it's an absolute nightmare for the everyday person who's just trying to make an honest living. And so whether or not you have Karen Bass as your mayor or Rick Caruso as your mayor, you're fucked either way. You're getting the embodiment of the worst type of bureaucrat or the embodiment of the worst type of real estate developer. So you decide which way you want it.
Exactly.
Yeah, excuse my English, but which way do you want to get fucked?
Yeah, exactly.
How you want it, because either way you get it. And I think LA, in so many respects, it's a microcosm of so many of these other problems that exist. And so now I ask you, as somebody who not only lives the fit lifestyle, but has obviously done very well career-wise as a result of it, it seems to me that we still live in a world where people like to downplay the importance of exercise, of eating correctly. And this is where I've often said, I was not a supporter of RFK, but I could 1000% appreciate the fact that he used his platform to talk about the fact that there's about 23 different food additives that is used in the same products in this country that isn't used in any other part of the world. So why the hell do we have to get screwed with that shit? And I would think that you could probably speak to this as why there's a misconception about living the fit lifestyle that I don't think people truly realize is one of the most effective ways to ever avoid getting sick.
Yeah, 100%. I think the first thing is number one, we've been gaslit. Our CIA and the powers that be have done a very good job convincing us that a balanced lifestyle means you're still consuming alcohol, you're still eating sugar, you're still eating highly processed foods. And as a culture, we view eating whole foods as a diet, this is intentional. This is the plan, because if you're eating completely unprocessed foods and you're cooking at home, I mean, don't even get me started on the restaurants. You have power and autonomy in your choices. You know exactly what's in there. When you're not doing that and you're eating things that are processed, number one, the majority of all processed foods are going to spike blood sugar, which is something I'm seeing more and more. I mean, I'm seeing so much insulin resistance, and there's a common thread. I have never seen somebody who's insulin resistant, who the majority, 90% of their diet is unprocessed foods and balanced meals. But we have been convinced that that is restrictive. It's not restrictive, it's how we're designed. And the problem that we have is we've gone against our biological design for the sake of what culture has told us is normal, which, shocker, we've seen this many times before. We're seeing it right now in culture across so many different sectors, but that's it. It makes you sick. You have a repeat customer. If people are healthy, they're awake. I mean, your entire audience is on here tonight. You guys are all awake. They don't want us to be awake. They want us to be sick, because you have a million different problems until you're sick. And then you only have that one problem. And so if they can create sick people, we don't pay attention to what they're doing to us. We don't pay attention to policies. We don't pay attention to world affairs. And we just let all of these corrupt people run amok. And to your point about, you know, LA and the mayoral race, this is across the board. It's like, pick your poison. Who's the lesser evil? But nothing really ever changes, right? We have to be the change. And with our health, it's not going to be, I love RFK, but he can't change your health for you. You have to make a decision to stop blindly being led around, whether it's him or it's the influencers on Instagram, and take control over yourself. It's you. I don't even want people listening to me blindly. Go do your own research. But what the research will tell you is you will never find a person who's overweight, who's eating 90 to 95% unprocessed foods, balanced between proteins, fats, and carbs, 3 to 4 meals a day. You're not going to find that. So this is not complicated. This is actually quite simple. It's very simple.
The thing that I found was what really turned my life around. I've always liked cooking, and I find that I do a fairly decent job of it. I say that because I actually like what I cook. So,
Yeah.
you know, I think that was a huge part of it. And then the person who truly changed my life, I would say that in terms of like really getting into shape. And it's funny because when I first moved to Florida, and this was in the fall of 2012, I saw a picture of myself right before I moved. And then I saw what I looked like about, I would say 3 years later. Hats off to Tony Horton. P90X is definitely, you know, that was definitely what really did it for me. Like I really got into it. And I found that meal prepping as well is a huge part of it. If you are going to go out to eat, for example, again, if you live in LA, there's a reason why when I've been to LA and I've been to Spago, for example, that is a very expensive place to go. But it's also a place where you are likely safe in terms of the quality of the food. Now, unless you're going to a high-end restaurant that lives and dies by its reputation of the affluent class that comes and eats there, you are at the mercy of whether or not people want to follow rules. Now, I know I'm going to upset some people in the audience when I play this clip of you, but I have to play it. I have to play it.
Okay.
I know a lot of you guys out there like to eat Girl Scout cookies. I think most people every once in a while like to indulge in these little treats here and there. I get criticized all the time because I truly live. I mean, I'm about to turn 43 in a month. And when people ask, well, how do you maintain your youthful look? I say, look, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't eat any junk. And this is something where, yes, Jen, frozen thin mints, they are amazing. I'm not too sure how good you're going to feel about it after you watch this.
Why our kids are so sick? Watch this.
For the first time in history, the #1 kids cookie brand has a direct link to autism.
Toxic Girl Scout cookies? Researchers say yes, they contain ingredients linked to autism and cancer.
This cookie is doused with weed killer 334 times above the safe limit, and it gets worse. Girl Scouts cocoa is chemically gutted with potassium carbonate, destroying 90% of its antioxidants, then fused with a Prop 65 carcinogen banned from Coca-Cola's recipe. That stripped paste is then sweetened 3 times with corn syrup and molasses.
As if sugar isn't bad enough for us, all of these processed foods that are loaded with sugar are also loaded with glyphosate and all kinds of other ingredients that are toxic and poisonous. I have been
I want to be very clear. If people want to truly understand why it is, again, it's like the whole issue with the cancers that came from Roundup. And now Roundup is probably not as common as it once was. So they came up with a different chemical. What I truly think is the conspiracy here, if you really want to call it that, is that big agriculture and big pharma are in bed together. The idea is to make you eat food to get you sick so that you get on medicine for the rest of your life. I mean, really, is that much of a conspiracy? I don't think so.
No, it is a conspiracy, but it's a conspiracy. I like to call it a conspiracy reality, where yes, they have conspired to poison us because they need customers. The system is not set up to make money if we're healthy, and that's what people have to understand. You don't need to be an expert in policy. Here's all you need to know: our system makes money when we're sick. They lose money when we're healthy. So for any individual to believe that our government is going to protect your health, that's a huge conflict of interest. Now think about this for a second. Food and Drug Administration. I've been saying this for years. Isn't that a conflict of interest? Because the food is what's making us sick, and then we get on the drug. So if the Food Administration and the drug companies are in bed together, what do you think that means for us as the consumer? So this is the thing, is from the time we're very young, we are taught and indoctrinated into this belief that if it was bad for us, the government would not allow for it. The government would not allow us to have this in our food supply if it wasn't safe. The government wouldn't allow this medication on the market if it wasn't safe. And that's why I'm encouraged to see so many. I hate what has happened in the wake of the COVID vaccine, but it's beautiful to see people waking up, because it's not because you're unintelligent and it's not because you're uneducated. It's because this was done on purpose. We, from the time we're very young, are told that our government is powerful and they're here to protect us, and we have such great standards and our FDA is so wonderful. No, it makes money when you're sick. It makes money when you're sick, and that's the real shame. And people are hurting and they're sick and their kids are sick because of it. And quite frankly, it makes me quite angry, as you can see from a lot of my social media content, because I'm just trying to warn people. I'm like, wake up, because you can do something about this.
You have a phenomenal physique. I am curious as to what it is that what does your diet look like? I am curious, from somebody who clearly does this in a very serious capacity. What does that generally look like for Ashley Conrad?
Great question. So I eat about 150 grams of protein a day, 130 to 150 grams of carbs. The rest are fats. I eat around 2,000 calories a day. And like I tell all of my clients to do, I do not eat processed foods, except for every once in a while I might have a chocolate chip cookie. But I try and eat single ingredient foods. That's it. And I just do repeat meals like you. I am a creature of habit. Meal prep works for me, and it keeps you on track. And then, every once in a while, because to answer people's questions, not people are thinking, oh my gosh, I couldn't live like that. But here's the thing, is that you can't have control over anything in this world until you can first control yourself. And the only thing that you can really control is your relationship with God, what you put in your body, and what you do with your body. And so when you begin to take on healthy habits and get yourself in phenomenal shape, which, by the way, is the way that you and I, Peter, we're supposed to be walking this earth. No one was designed to walk this earth in bondage in their body, overweight, diabetic, medicated, all of this. When you go back to the facts, that's the way that you do it. It's not complicated. You want to eat 1 gram of protein per pound goal body weight, around the same amount of carbs, give or take, depending on what your activity level is, and then the rest healthy fats, and get those from whole foods. And that's it. And I've been doing that for 20 years. And that's why even, in 2024, I was bedridden for 6 months and I didn't gain any weight. I had a horrible medical thing happen where I got misdiagnosed with, I had a horrendous bulging disc. Doctors told me that the disc wasn't bulging. They told me it was a labral tear. So for 6 months, I was in 10 of 10 pain, took my nervous system completely offline. And when they finally caught it, I should say when I caught it, and then they did something about it, I was bedridden. I was having to wear, not to be graphic, but I had to wear adult diapers because I could not get out of bed for months.
Yeah, I was not in a situation where I couldn't go to the bathroom, but when I was, let's say how it's 2010, So I had a herniated disc, and it was very bad, to the point at which I couldn't sit. Like, it was excruciating pain.
Yep.
And you learn a lot, but I've had 2 surgeries in my life. I had my wisdom teeth removed, and I had a microdiscectomy. So I didn't have the removal of the disc. Thank God it didn't need to be done. However, what I learned after that, again, timeline to when the fit lifestyle really took over. The one thing I promised myself once I was able to sit again is that I'm never going to put myself through this ever again, whatever it is.
Yes.
And then you learn about what type of fitness training works for you. I have flat feet, and because of the way my hips rotate, I am not somebody who does very well with barbell squats. But you know what is very good for me and what I love to do is kettlebells. As far as I'm concerned, that's what Teddy Roosevelt used to work out with, 150. Yeah. So you adjust, you do what's for you, and you make it work. But again, like you said, even in the worst of situations where your health can, just be called into question because you get injured or sick, etc., because of the lifestyle that you live, you avoid that.
Exactly.
And we've seen so many people who end up on narcotics when they get bedridden, and that's where that whole life spiral comes into play. And especially in that town, especially with so many people that want to be in the entertainment world, I can't even imagine. I mean, it's just so, it's so beyond the pale. But I am thankful every day that I chose to go down this road of living a healthy lifestyle. I wouldn't change it for anything. And the other thing I would also tell people, and again, you can definitely attest to this because I'm sure you've seen it in your clients. Again, not to flatter you more, but you're a good-looking woman, and so at the end of the day, when you're in really good physical shape, there is a level of self-confidence that takes over your disposition that clearly could never have existed before if you were not somebody who's living a healthy lifestyle. So I would encourage people on that merit alone, especially if, let's say, you're a guy and maybe you don't know how or feel comfortable or confident enough to go up and talk to women. Let me tell you, when you start working out and taking good care of yourself, there is this, I'm definitely going to go talk to that.
Yes.
That whole thing changes. So I would 1,000% encourage anybody to do that. I mean, to me, that really does make a difference. And
absolutely.
And I want to thank you again, for what you're doing, because it does take a lot of intestinal fortitude to stand up to this tyranny. And especially with the system collapsing on itself the way that it is now, more so than it ever was 6 years ago, it's imperative that as much as we want to be like, ha, told you so, now it's, I was right. Now follow my lead.
Yes, 100%. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Yeah. This is not a time to shame people for their decisions. Even when I was trying to warn people in 2020, people's assumption is if they're vaccinated, they think I'm going to be against them because I was so outspoken. I'm not. Like, I want to help you. Like, let's help get your health on track, because especially if you are vaccinated, it is so important that you're opening up those detox pathways. You're clearing that out. We're clearing cortisol and giving the body a fighting chance so that it does not become dysregulated and extremely dysfunctional. So I couldn't agree more. And I'm so happy that you're able to work out, Peter, with the microdiscectomy you had, because there are so many people that when they go through those sorts of procedures, they never recover. They can never get into any sort of even body weight squat. So that makes me really happy to hear that you've recovered beautifully.
It's amazing how much of a mental block it ends up becoming. It's not a question of whether you can physically do it. It's like, I'm going to hurt myself again. Look, there is a reason why again, don't even look at professional wrestlers. It's like all of these fitness gurus online. When I tell you that, ladies and gentlemen, about 80 to 90% of them are taking something that they shouldn't be taking. That is part of the reason why they are that way. To truly be physically fit and healthy requires a lot of work and discipline, and most people don't have it. And once you clear that hurdle, I find the hurdle is about 2 to 3 weeks. But if you can get over that 2 to 3 week hurdle of changing the diet, getting consistent with working out, doing meal prep, it changes your life.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah, 100%.
And I want to thank you again, like I said, for fighting that fight, because that's what we try to do here. And Jen, my co-host, who we do the weekly show with, this is my solo Saturday night show, is that we talk about spinning the web and creating as much of a network as possible that goes across the entire political spectrum. I am tired of people trying to pigeonhole themselves into these little corners that shit should not exist. And so the more we have these conversations, the more we're likely to get to that revolutionary change that we so desperately need.
Absolutely.
So hats off to you, and final thoughts before you go.
Just keep fighting the good fight, brother. Thank you for doing this and spreading the word. People need it. And thank you for having me on.
My pleasure. Have a great Easter, and we'll be in touch.
Yes, great Easter. See you soon. Bye-bye.
So, as some people may or may not agree, this to me is a very important part of my life. And if it is important to you, or if you've thought about making it an important part of your life, I highly recommend that you consider some of these options. And remember what Ashley said. It doesn't mean that you have to completely remove yourself from any pure enjoyment when it comes to food. It just means that you get everything under control. For example, if you want to have one of those Gideon's chocolate chip cookies from Orlando, that's not something that you have all the time. But as a treat once in a while, you should absolutely indulge. I think that that's very important. So, with that said, I know this conversation wasn't for everybody because we did lose some of the audience, but that's okay. I appreciate everybody who stuck around to hear, some of what we were talking about. With that being said, I want everyone to recognize why speaking truth to power becomes such an important motivator when we're thinking about what's happening right now with the Tyler. Again, I don't even like saying Tyler Robinson's name because it is painfully obvious that he is a patsy. Anybody who sees anything related to politics understands when you're being played for a fool, or at least they're attempting to play you for a fool. So why is this a big deal? Bullet used to kill Charlie Kirk did not match rifle allegedly, because again, words matter, by suspect Tyler Robinson, new court filing claims. Now, of course, I had to pull an article from overseas because we all know that here in the States, they're going to fudge the truth as much as they possibly can. Colin, if you could scroll, please. Colin? There we are. The bullet that killed conservative commentator Charlie Kirk may not match the rifle used by suspected killer PATSY Robinson. Bombshell new court filing states. Robinson, 22, is facing capital murder charges and a potential death sentence for Kirk's murder at Utah Valley University on September 10th of 25. But his defense attorneys now argue that the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, or known as the ATF, was unable to identify the bullet recovered at autopsy to the rifle allegedly tied to Mr. Robinson. Remember, they said it was a 30-06 that did the deed. The defense team may now offer the ATF firearm analyst testimony as exculpatory evidence, they said in a motion filed on Friday to push the preliminary hearing back at least 6 months. It also notes that the DNA reports filed by the Federal Bureau of Investigation and ATF will take time for the defense team to analyze because reports indicate that several different DNA samples were found on some items of evidence. As these cases indicate, determining the number of contributors to a DNA mixture and determining whether the FBI and the ATF reliably applied, validated, and correct scientific procedures is a complicated process, which requires the assistance of various types of experts, including forensic biologists, geneticists, system engineers, and statisticians, all of whom must review and evaluate several different categories. Robinson's attorneys added they have received about 20,000 electronic audio files, videos, and written documents that prosecutors have presented as evidence in the case. The defense team has devoted and will continue to devote significant resources to processing discovery, including identifying materials not yet received to inform readiness to the preliminary hearing. However, the defense team is realistic, and the comprehensive review required to determine what is missing will take hundreds of hours, aka there are those that believe that this trial might not even really kick into high gear until the end of the year, if not after this year. What is known at present is that Mr. Robinson has not yet received the forensic case files and data necessary to investigate through the use of qualified experts, the scientific reports that state intends to introduce at the preliminary hearing. Defense attorneys and prosecutors had previously met on March 12th. Based on that meeting, the defense said in the motion, it believes prosecutors will introduce discrete buckets of evidence through 3 identified law enforcement witnesses at the preliminary hearing. This includes a conclusory forensic DNA and ballistic reports authored by the FBI and the ATF, social media data, testimony by law enforcement officers about the crime scene and search locations, and testimony by Mr. Robinson's parents and roommate, as well as a significant amount of hearsay from non-testifying peace officers. You mean the evidence that they covered up at the scene? You mean that part? Yeah, we don't forget that shit. Prosecutors have alleged Robinson drove 3 hours from his home to the university campus to kill Kirk. Yeah, I'm just not buying it. Was turned over to authorities by his father, Matt. Again, this is in dispute as well, after he recognized his own dad's rifle in the image released by police amid the manhunt for Kirk's assassin. Tyler's grandfather had given him the rifle as a gift before he used it to kill Kirk. Again, that's what authorities have said. You're assuming, you're making a presumption that isn't true. After that, recognizing the unique gun, Matt texted his son and asked him for a picture, the family heirloom, which suspect could not provide. In a text exchange between Tyler and his roommate partner, Lance Twiggs, the alleged killer claimed the rifle was the only evidence he left behind. That's again in dispute. If I am able to grab my rifle unseen, I will have left no evidence. Going to attempt to retrieve it again. Hopefully they have moved on. Again, no one talks like this, especially when it comes to a crime like this. I haven't seen anything about them finding it. Sure. Robinson also reportedly wrote about planning to get the weapon from his drop point. Yes, because this is, again, stuff that assassins write in their manifestos through text messages to get caught. I'm wishing I had circled back and grabbed it as soon as I got in my vehicle. Remember, they can make anything seem reasonable, can't they? I'm worried with what my old man will do if I don't bring back Grandpa's rifle. Keep scrolling. The alleged killer then expressed concern that his father would ask to see the gun. Robinson signed off the faithful text exchange by warning his partner, Lance Twiggs, to delete their messages. Nothing's ever deleted. He ultimately allegedly confessed to committing the murder to his father, who then contacted authorities and secured his son before he could be taken into custody. Now, I don't know how much of that anybody believes, but I will say this. If anybody can speak to the bullshit that is this story, it's Candace Owens.
Willfully sit on the defense side and say, this person told me that the feds planted the gun. This person told me that the bomb dogs couldn't find it. How can you sit back and pretend that you are like a friend of Charlie Kirk because you're trying to get a patsy put into prison? Like, you guys are completely monstrous and pretending that you're on the side of morality. There was an overwhelming amount of evidence that the feds set this kid up as a patsy. Okay? Everyone in the town, all the local sheriff departments, the SWAT team, they believe that the feds came in and they started lying and they were sending people on wild goose chase and they, said the gun was here and they said it was over there. There was no gun. They didn't want the bomb dogs to go into certain places. Like I said, I am not getting this information from people that do not have the credibility to assert that. That's how I got the pictures inside of the car. Okay, I am speaking to people with firsthand intimate knowledge, and they all believe that the feds set this up.
One of the unique advantages that somebody like Candace has when you build an audience as big as she has is that you have sleuths on the ground in places that want to help and offer to help because they know that Candace has the type of platform that can make an impact. So when Candace puts out the word to people in Salt Lake City, Ogden, etc., saying, hey, is there anything you can do to help? Let me know. And whether it's through Discord or whatever sources that is being used, again, she's not hyping herself. She's not going over the top. She's not giving herself a pat on the back. She's saying, look, I'm using my platform to try to solve this case. What she's really doing is proving once and for all of Israel's involvement in this murder. She's offering to help. And I got to tell you guys, you know what this reminds me of in so many ways? This is reminding me more and more of the Seth Rich story. People offered to help Seth Rich's family, but they didn't want help. Said the case was solved. It never was. When you get very close to the powers that be, they're going to do everything in their power to make sure that you do not bring it to light. That's the difference. We don't want the truth to be exposed. We do that, we're in big trouble. The system can collapse on itself, which is why the Seth Rich story had to go away, and which is why the Tyler Robinson story must go away as soon as possible. Candace will explain further.
So how are there people out there saying otherwise? Why wouldn't I testify for the defense? I want to find Charlie's real killer. I don't want to find some random kid that they're sticking this on. It's not Tyler Robinson. Tyler Robinson did not do this alone. I feel the opposite of how Erica Kirk felt sitting next to Barry Weiss. With everything I have collected, I feel the exact opposite as Charlie Kirk's wife. I feel almost certain that Tyler Robinson did not shoot. I would say I feel 99.9% certain that Tyler Robinson did not shoot Charlie Kirk from a rooftop by himself. How about that? I'm going to say 0.1% because I don't know. You just should never say 100% unless you're, Erica Kirk's lawyers. 100%, we'll get him. We'll get him. We're just going to go on vibes. No, you're going on corruption, not vibes. What she feels 100% certain about, confident about, is that there is a bunch of people who will lie for her. She's got a police force behind her. She's got 33 behind her. She's got the White House, Scott Bessent, that'll publish letters saying that they're so upstanding and so moral, right? That's what she feels 100% certain of, is that she's connected to the billionaire class of Epstein-type people who lie about everything. Me?
Let me tell you, she has quite the vendetta against Erica Kirk. And I think part of the reason that she is going after, and she's really honed in on Erica in particular, is because I think she views Erica as being the weak link. And that if anybody's going to break, if anybody is going to fold under pressure, I believe Andrew Colvit's another one, something's going to give. Because there is ample evidence to suggest many times over that Erica Kirk is not who she says she is and never was. So it really makes you wonder, how did she end up in this situation anyway when Erica Kirk's parents have been proven beyond any doubt that they were part of intelligence? So where does that leave her? How does that leave her in this situation? I don't know. But this is what us sleuths out there choose to do because we just want the truth. That's all. Nothing more, nothing less. We're not greedy. We just want to know what's really going on. And that's a big deal.
I follow the facts, and Tyler Robinson did not do this. He's not a lone gunman on a rooftop, okay? So I challenge you. I challenge any person, like I've done over and over again, if you feel so 100% overwhelmed by the evidence that Tyler Robinson did this, please come sit in this studio and debate me. I need someone to debate on this. It's over. I'm so overwhelmed. I'm having a heart attack. It's so overwhelming. There's so much evidence. There's no evidence. Shut up. Stop saying that. It's the end of Lent, and I just don't, I genuinely want to be calm this week getting out of Lent. You don't have to shut up. I just prefer you say nothing. That's a better way of saying that. Please say nothing.
They can't say nothing because they're guilty as sin. But I will tell you, watching people react to Candace, anyone, again, I don't have that much in common with Candace politically, but I have enough to know that this was a big deal and that trying to sweep it under the rug, it's just obvious, whether it's because their career demands it, Hasbro demands it. We know who the usual suspects are. Again, I don't have to go through the names. Cat Turd and Gunther Eagleman come to mind, but you understand. And then you have this situation. This is a big, big deal. But this is not the end of it. Candace also pointed out something very important about what was just discovered regarding the supposed 30-06 that did the job to Charlie. And of course, we know that's not the case.
They discontinued this because not even the scientists or the bullet manufacturers would testify that that made any sense. Not even the scientists or the bullet manufacturers. We don't know how you're doing this. You're just saying that you have some special scientific technique that the scientists are saying is not so scientific, and the bullet manufacturers saying, yeah, this doesn't make any sense. And so they just quietly stopped doing that in 2005. Hey, but guess what, guys? Cash's boys are going to dust that off, pull it back, because ATF probably said, a little too obvious and corrupt for us. Okay, best we can do. Like, you know, we're the feds, we're the Fed boys, love you, but can we give you an inconclusive?
I tell you, David, I have often, if not always, been inclined to believe, and I believe Jen feels the same way, that it was an exploding microphone or an exploding pager. That's, to me, the most logical explanation. I don't know for certain if that's how he got taken out, but I would say that if I was given a list of choices, that's the one that makes the most sense. If you watch how he actually was taken out, it looked like something exploded in his neck. But do I think that Candace is right in that the FBI is going to try to do everything in their capacity to try to get this case shut as soon as possible? Yes. They want to sweep this under the rug as fast as humanly possible. And if it wasn't for Candace Owens, again, I can't take any credit. We're a small, however mighty, but a small potato channel. We have almost 120,000 subscribers, which again is nothing to seize at. Candace Owens has over 5 million. She has real pull, real influence. And for her to use this influence to make sure that this case doesn't die a Tyler Robinson death, got to tip your hat. And now that a significant piece of evidence has turned against the establishment, they're going to be working overtime to try to get this thing wrapped up as soon as possible.
Can we just say inconclusive? It probably doesn't even match. Inconclusive is the best I can do as your homie. You guys are on your own if you're going to be that corrupt, despite this history of the strategy being corrupt. Because scientists, and you put a lot of people in jail wrongly, and the feds are like, yeah, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to put somebody in jail wrongly. So that's what we're doing. We need to bring back the technique that's been discontinued for 20 years. Incredible. Bombshell. Should be on the cover of every mainstream news, reporting that the FBI is bringing back an already debunked technique so that they can give Erica the evidence she needs to connect this gun, which hasn't even been fired, to Tyler Robinson.
And it doesn't match. That's the point. It doesn't match. And there are those who are going to claim, as has been the message that's been going around by the likes of Little Ben and a few others, that it's inconclusive. That doesn't mean it doesn't match. Are you sure about that? Gun was found on Palantir property. We only know what we know because of the information that we are given. I'll tell you what I know for absolute certainty because I saw it with my own two eyes. Thanks to amateur video, we saw the following. We saw Charlie's assassination, followed immediately by the reactions of those in the inner circle of TPUSA, subsequently their relationship and connections to the state of Israel. We saw the cover-up of evidence, including cementing over the entire crime scene. I mean, that to me is just the giveaway right there. That's the giveaway. This is a conspiracy cover-up. And the fact that Tyler Robinson's name has been proven through discovery with our friend James Lee over 5149, that there were Google searches for Tyler Robinson in Israel days before the assassination. To Candace's credit, keep fighting, keep pushing. This is the key to breaking Israel, in my opinion. As we come to the end of the live stream tonight, I want to remind people that are thinking about what this weekend means for them, what it means to them. History has shown that most people seek religion for comfort, for peace of mind about what the world really is. Why are we here? How did we get here? And the teachings of Christ, which to me should always be separated from Judaism, the church, Christianity, Islam. These are just guiding principles to live by because they make sense. But there are people who choose to use religion as a weapon. It's being used right now as a weapon to pillage the earth environmentally and kill people incessantly. But I always like the old joke about Zionists. They don't believe in God, but they believe God promised them Israel. And so, while our focus has been heavy about Jewish Zionism, we must always point out the impact of Christian Zionism. Now, they may not have the same level of control in terms of financial infrastructure that Jewish Zionism does, but their infrastructural control when it comes to the amount of people that support the state of Israel is probably a tenfold over the amount of Jewish people that support it. That's just numbers. And if there is a person that is out there right now that is speaking blasphemy this weekend as people will honor Christ's resurrection tomorrow, alleged resurrection, I want to remind you of the type of people that this administration has allowed to control the levers of power and what they are doing in the name of religion. I shun at the thought of ever having to bring up Trump's spiritual advisor, Paula White. But as we conclude for Easter, this is the type of message that I want people to understand is why religion does more harm than good around the world, because this is what people listen to, unfortunately, right now.
What I think I found particularly disturbing.
This is not what I wanted. Somebody pulled the wrong clip. This is the right clip.
But as I prayed, it was like the Holy Spirit just zoned me in and said, tell President Trump how thankful you are for him. And I think I felt like I was conveying the heart of God for all of us, that we are thankful for the greatest champion of faith,
the greatest champion of faith, him, Trump. He's the greatest champion of faith. Why don't you just say, yes, Alex, please clap. I love it. Shout out to our friends at Two Dissonance. That will never get old. Why not just say that he's just a great champion of faith, even though that's all bullshit, we know that. But to say he's the greatest champion of faith. Do you not see how these are all charlatans that take the Lord's name in vain every chance they get? This blasphemy is not just Jewish Zionism. This is Christian Zionism run amok. And everyone thinks that Paula White's a nut job. She is. And so are the tens of millions of people in this country who buy into this bullshit. Now, granted, I have a little bit more sympathy for Christian Zionists who typically grow up in the much more rural, lower income parts of the United States versus Jewish Zionists who typically are very affluent. But that doesn't take away from the danger that this type of blasphemy is not to this country, to the world over. This is a person who is celebrating the president on Easter weekend in the midst of a war and genocide that we are a part of and backing full strength with Israel.
We've ever seen in a president. And we honor you because of your bold, unwavering conviction and stand for religious liberty here in America and around the world. And you recognize the power and the name of Jesus Christ. I remember when we told our first briefing, you can now pray again and worship again. They begin to shout and praise and say, thank you, Lord, and sing in their highest ways. For your unwavering recognition that the strength of a nation is through Almighty God. And you have not backed away from any of this. Thank you for allowing me to serve you, to serve people of faith, and to serve the American people.
He looks like he's half asleep. He's like, yeah, this is just not going to do it for me. Paula, you were supposed to be my side piece, not my nutcase piece. Well, can't have everything you want, Donnie boy. Yes, she grifts as hard as he does. Probably why he likes her.
I've heard many people take credit for you being here, or for some of your victories, and for being in the sacred office of the president. But the truth of it is you are here because of God and because of you. And I just wanted to share this thought and pray over President Trump. Jesus taught us so many lessons through his death, burial, and resurrection. He showed us great leadership. Great transformation requires great sacrifice. And Mr. President, no one has paid the price like you have paid the price. It almost cost you your life.
Did you hear the whispers murmuring? So true. So true. Oh, yeah. Praise God. Mm-hmm. I've heard them all.
You were betrayed and arrested and falsely accused. It's a familiar pattern.
Okay. I mean, this is offensive in the worst way.
And falsely accused.
Falsely accused of what exactly? Last I checked, he's pretty guilty. But this lady has the audacity to compare him to Jesus. This guy. There's a lesson to be learned here, folks. We'll get to that in a second.
It's a familiar pattern that our Lord and Savior showed us. But it didn't end there for him, and it didn't end there for you. God always had a plan. On the third day, he rose, he defeated evil, he conquered death, hell, and the grave. And because he rose, we all know that we can rise. And sir, because of his resurrection, you rose up. Because he was victorious, you were victorious. And I believe that the Lord said to tell you this. Because of his victory, you will be victorious in all you put your hand to.
Thank you. Really great. Yeah, you did a really great job. Doesn't she do a really great job? Really great person. She fluffed me real nice. Yeah. And just remember, overwhelmingly, this is all about getting the bag. This is not about anything else. But this type of blasphemy, as I've been saying, despite what Jen would like to point out, I have often pointed out that I believe in the karmic alignment of the universe. And I believe that there are things that happen for reasons that are often unexplainable, whether it is divine or not. There's a reason these things happen. In light of everything that's going on right now, you're going to tell me that there is any justice? This is, as Green-Eyed Lass says, it's heresy. Whether you're a pious person or not, you have to know that just that the fact that there is the possibility of God, you would think you would err on the side of caution and not conduct yourself in what is considered one of the deadliest of sins, which is taking the Lord's name in vain. This is the worst way to do it, because they're not only doing that, they're doing it for the purpose of collecting the shekels. They are all Judases, all of them. But she's particularly bad. And she's insane. And she supports the war in Iran and the genocide in Gaza. Some pious person. So for those, again, who are planning to celebrate tomorrow, just remember, there is a difference between supporting Jesus and supporting Christianity. Know the difference, and the same is true. Jesus of Palestine, another inconvenient truth. If you have all enjoyed this conversation this evening, which we hope you have, we hope that you will consider one more time going over to patreon.com/revolutionary change. For as little as $5 a month, you can become a supporter of our small but mighty, despite suppressed, yet still growing channel. And we also have a pack. Remember to check out Revolutionary Change Pack. Take your phone, click the QR code. Our pack is supporting Shama Sawant, who is running for Congress as an independent in Washington's 9th Congressional District against super Zio scumbag Democrat Adam Smith. And our intention is to raise $60,000 to put up a slew of billboards along I-5 in the Seattle corridor and showing just how bad Adam Smith truly is in helping Shama Sawant get over that finish line. So we would appreciate the support there. And of course, as we mentioned, patreon.com/revolutionary change. I also want to make sure that you guys are subscribed on Rumble. Remember, we are Revolutionary Change on Rumble. We are Revolutionary Change on Instagram. We also still have a TikTok page. We'll use it for the purpose of getting our message out as best we can, despite the fact that they are crappy organization now. Noria with the $10. Free the world from Nazi Zionist terrorists. We're trying our best, sister. Trying our best. Brian Burns with the $2. Millet is short for Millet-Kowski. Heard they're cousins. They sure act like they are. A shout out to Substack of Hadi with the €2. Read the Israeli Connection. Benjamin Beat Halami. Thank you very much for that, my friend. Snowy with the 20 Canadian A. Will you buy me a coffee? You know, I've thought about it. If you think that's worth doing, again, we have Patreon. No. Okay, so Jen is saying that I can't get it because, Jen's the boss. So, no, unfortunately, I don't have Buy Me a Coffee, but I think we still have, not Zelle, what's that? Cash App. We still have Cash App. So if you want to use Cash App, although I think we need to update the name on that, that's another way that you can contribute. Company is no bueno. Oh, yeah. Okay. So I think Buy Me a Coffee may be connected to Israel. Remember that if we don't have any business with a particular company, especially if it's an easy way to make a contribution, chances are you could probably trace it back directly to, much as we were able to trace ExpressVPN to Joe Rogan, and ExpressVPN is connected to Israel. So what a surprise. What is your take on the carnivore diet? Thank you, Libertarian Social Dem. Unfortunately, I can't subscribe to the carnivore diet because I am not a meat eater. I am a pescatarian. I do make the exception once in a blue moon for turkey. That's about it. So I can't really speak to it other than I think the thing about eating healthy is that you need to get a certain amount of protein, a certain amount of carbs, fiber, vitamins, vegetables, etc. So if I were to pick what I consider to be the ideal meal, let's have a tuna steak, medium rare. I would do red and white quinoa or sliced sweet potatoes roasted with some salt and some sour cream. Again, roasted to like that they're like French fry style sweet potatoes, and Japanese sweet potato in particular. I do like rice occasionally. And then in terms of vegetables, I'm in the green family. Asparagus, roasted asparagus, thin asparagus. I don't like the thick kind. I mean, I'll have it if that's what's on the menu. But I would say that that's definitely a really good option. And then broccoli, cauliflower, spinach. So that's kind of the overall type of cooking that I prefer. I like avocado mayo, not regular mayo. I like salt. I like different types of spices. I like Mexican spice more than Italian spice. And I would say, different types of, I would say like if I have like a favorite sauce or dressing, it would definitely be avocado, lemon, mayo, something like that. The middle of the donut is fat-free. That's good, Travers. But yeah, again, it's all about commitment. And I think Alex said it best. Your gut needs fiber from vegetables. Absolutely. That's imperative. And you do need carbs too. Don't let anybody tell you that you don't need carbs. You need good carbs, but carbs are definitely necessary. And just exercise, eat right, get enough sleep. Don't stress yourself out too much. And maybe smoke some weed. I don't have any problem with that. Libertarian Social Dem with the $4.99. I think to be pragmatic, USA processed foods should be like how it is in Europe, where their box of cereal is more transparent and also portion control. Yes, like I said, my experience in Ireland was definitely one where you could 100% tell the difference with the food. It is definitely more healthy and much more digestible. That's a big difference. And finally, 0744 Pete with the $5. Discovered you through DD. That's Due Dissonance. Love your channel. Stay strong. Appreciate you, my friend. We all love potatoes too, which is why if you want to have them, you should make them at home. Slice them, roast them, hit them with some salt, maybe some mayo and ketchup. A little bit of ketchup never hurt anybody, but let me tell you, the ketchup that is used, and Travers can attest to this, the ketchup that is used overseas, particularly in Ireland, UK, Europe, etc., it's made with sugar cane, not with high fructose corn syrup. That's the difference. And you can certainly taste it. So there you go. With that being said, I want to wish you all a very happy Easter. Celebrate for the right reasons. Best movie I ever saw about Jesus is definitely Ben-Hur. I think that the message is important, especially right now. That's awesome to hear. It is very, very easy to fall into these traps of using religion for the purpose of profit. Because that in so many ways as what it's used for. Not everybody. So I'm a cautious optimist, as I often say. So right now, I want to remain as optimistic as I can, despite all of the things that are happening at this very moment. That is pretty cool. And Jen and Rachel are planting an amazing garden as we speak. That's where the money from our channel goes to, guys. We are building a farming community. They are. I can't take credit for that. But when I get up there, I'll definitely lend a hand. Farming hand, as they say. Always provide that help. And so if you want to continue to help our efforts, please make sure that you do consider going to patreon.com/revolutionary change to become a paying member of our channel. And I want everyone to know that the money that you contribute here goes to a good cause. That's very important. On Monday night, the day after Easter weekend, we will have Doctors Against Genocide. We will be meeting in DC in a week and a half. I will also most likely be appearing on Rothbone's channel one night this week. That'll be a fun conversation. So I'll keep you all posted on that. But with that being said, smash that like button, share, subscribe, do all those things we ask you to do. I thank you all, as always, for being an amazing crowd, an amazing network. Don't know yet, Mehdi. I'll let you guys know. But thank you all. Love you all. Appreciate you all. Happy Easter and free Palestine. Good night, guys.